in a free society? Why do you want to live under hierarchy?
I don't have to plan anything for it to grow. Why?
That doesn't mean anything.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it
Are
does.
you?
If someone built the house,
Yeah.
why did they build it?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yes, it does matter.
No.
Especially because if they didn't, but
No,
there's no reason for them to build
No.
it. There's no reason for them to build it. They wouldn't build it.
We're literally not talking.
Yes, no.
No,
You said you're worse
No.
to have a place to live. That's what you said.
Yep.
You said
That's true.
And I just said that the way of the world forces you to do things or die.
Correct.
Right.
But why does it have to be that?
Can you understand?
Why does somebody have to make money off that though? Why does that make any sense?
Because if there's no incentive, the houses don't get built.
So people have to. So you think it's okay to deprive somebody of basic necessities in order to make money off them?
No, I don't.
So but that's what you just said. You just said. So I have to find a place to live. Okay. That's
you have to be in this world. You have to do something in order to take care of yourself.
Congratulations. You have just blown my mind. You have to do things to live. Congratulations.
That's just a universal.
I know.
Okay.
The problem is, I understand.
Okay.
My problem is when somebody makes money off of that.
Seth, they don't have to build a house. The old joke is that you go to the third world country.
It doesn't matter. We're not talking about any of that.
Yes, we are.
We're talking about the fundamental relationship.
The house isn't provided by nature. It doesn't grow up. It has to come from somewhere.
We're not talking about where the house comes from.
Yes, we are
talking about the fundamental relationship between the landlord and the renter.
The landlord doesn't have to exist.
Great. That would be great. If the landlord didn't exist, we live in a
society. The house doesn't exist.
Nope, that doesn't mean anything.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't.
Yes, it does.
The landlord doesn't. No, the landlord does not dictate if the house exists.
Yes, he does. He's the one who took the risk to build the building. He does.
No,
I know. I'm a landlord.
No.
I take a big, huge risk. It's my biggest risk.
No,
I built a place.
The job of the landlord isn't to build the house.
Seth, there are ones that provide the housing.
There are a lot of landlords that didn't build a house.
Seth,
okay, right there. Like it's
Seth,
not. It's no.
Seth, the fact that the landlord
the fact
that there's incentive there means that the landlord wants to do the job.
No, it's Dad. The fact that there are houses that exist that the landlords did not build disproves that point. Okay. No, the problem is
someone originally built the house.
Yes.
All right.
It doesn't matter who built it because we're not talking about.
Yes, we're talking about motivation.
We're not talking about.
We're talking about incentives.
We're literally not talking about.
If there's no landlord, there would be no houses.
We're not talking about any of that.
Yes, we are.
You're not talking about any of that.
What's the incentive? What's the incentive to have a house?
There shouldn't be an incentive to make money off of somebody's livelihood. That's my problem. Is that it's not that the house has to be built. The house has to be built, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is,
so what's the incentive for someone to build a house?
You could build a house without having a landlord build it.
But what's the incentive for the landlords to build the house or to take care of the house?
I don't think there should be any incentive.
So there's no incentive for them to do it.
Yes.
Then why would they do it? See what happens? This is what happens.
They won't.
This is what happens when there's no control. Then there's no incentive to build, so there's no building that goes on. That's exactly what happens. And then all of a sudden, there's all this black market where people have to move out of the place because there's no more building, because the landlords have no incentive. That's what happens. You get rid of the landlord, you get rid of the landlord, you get rid of the housing.
No.
That's exactly what happens.
In a society in which the job of the landlord didn't exist at all, the house would get built regardless. The landlord doesn't own the constructors. The people the contract. Why would they do it? Because they're getting paid to do it.
By who?
By the people that are paying for the house.
So we do that here? I mean, basically, when you rent a house. When you rent a house, you don't take the risk of owning the property. You don't take the risk of having fire insurance. You don't take the risk of.
It doesn't matter. We're not talking about.
Yes, we are talking about that.
We're talking about the fact of the matter is that
you're saying that the landlord is unduly coercing you to extract money from you. And I'm saying you're getting the benefit. You're getting the benefit of not having to build a house. You're getting the benefit of not having to make.
It's not. Life should be a trade-off. You shouldn't have.
It is a trade-off.
No,
everything's a trade-off.
Why? Why does that exist? Okay, no.
You can choose not to work and die. You can do that. That's a choice you have.
No, but okay, listen.
You can choose not to.
Let me bring it back. Okay, let me talk to you about one point. The point that I've been getting across the entire discussion for like an hour. Okay, listen. I need to find somewhere to live. That's a fact. Okay, I've already said this like 3 times. Okay. The problem is, it's not that I need to find a place to live. It's not that somebody has to build the house. That's none of my problem. I don't have any problem with that. The problem is somebody makes money off of the basic necessity of me trying to find a house.
But they never would have done that unless there would have been a
The landlord doesn't own the concept of building houses.
Seth, you would never plant a seed unless you're going to get a profit. You would never plant a tree unless you're going to get some benefit out of it.
If you're paid to build a house, it doesn't matter who's telling you to do it. You're getting paid to do it.
You would not turn on the light switch.
Contractors exist that build houses without landlords existing. You realize that, right?
But who pays them?
The people that are building the house, or like the government, or like anybody.
So you're a person that doesn't own a house. You're not going to be paying for all of the things that go into making a house. You're not taking on any of that risk at all. You assume zero risk. All you're doing is you're going to pay for a time that you stay in this house when someone's already spent all the effort, all the labor, all the resources to make something happen.
No, because
so their incentive is at some point in time they have to have a harvest, just like a plant.
You're fundamentally misunderstanding where
you're not,
because the society.
You're saying that society should just provide you a house, and there should be an incentive.
Yes, that would be great. Right. If you didn't have a profit motive for every single little thing in your entire life would be great. Because you wouldn't have to worry about
whether there's a profit motive or whether there's some other motive. There's a motive to everything.
Exactly.
Right.
But the problem is that one system.
Right. So what's your motive?
The problem is that I want a house and I want other people to live in a house. Okay. That my motive is to be like utilitarian and ethical and egalitarian.
Okay, so you just pay what the rent is, and then there's the
no. That's the because in one system the problem is that the landlord is making money.
What's the problem with making money? I don't understand.
It's not like they're making money. It's the fact that they're making money off of someone's literal existence. People have to exist.
It's not they're providing a service.
They're not providing a service.
They're providing housing.
No, they don't
have to build the house.
They don't provide the house. The workers provided the house. The people that built the actual house provided the house.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did. Okay. They built the house.
Okay, right now.
You are living in the house. You're paying some weird bit right now. Just owns the land.
Right now, I'm putting together a building. I'm putting a project up in Rexford together. Okay, the workers aren't putting that project together right now.
Are you actually people working? Are you?
Yeah.
Did you?
It's a lot of work.
No. Did you? Are you nailing 2x4s?
I have. I've done it.
Are you doing it right now?
Seth, right now I'm putting the concept together to make it happen.
Are you doing it right now? As we speak, are you putting drywall on the wall?
Putting all the documents together.
Then essentially, but in the future, you will make money off of somebody else's labor. That's the problem.
They're making money. They're taking advantage of my work that I'm doing right now. I'm putting this whole project.
They're not taking advantage of you.
Yes, they are. How? Because I'm putting this whole project together. If someone wasn't around putting this project together, they would never have an apartment complex. The apartment complex wouldn't exist if I didn't do it.
It wouldn't exist. It's not like,
wouldn't because I wouldn't do it.
But it could.
You
don't have to like the
apartment
fundamentally
somebody has to make the building.
Yeah, but you don't have to make money off of somebody living there.
Seth, how do you recoup all of your costs?
You don't need to.
Why?
You don't need to.
Why is
somebody doesn't have to own the building all the time? It's not like
this is exactly why capital is like socialism and
it
always fails.
No,
because they don't understand.
That's a falsehood. You know that's a falsehood. We've already talked about this.
Well, Russia failed. Venezuela failed.
Venezuela, you know, doesn't fail.
Yes, it has.
We've already talked about Venezuela. It's existing now.
Yeah, and your facts are so wrong.
I got you to agree that the U.S. was just like absolutely messing with Venezuela a whole bunch, right? And that they're basically fine right now, and they were before. Yes, they are. Well, they're not. Okay. Yes, people are starting it because of the U.S. No, it is. I got you to agree this in the past. Why are you reverting on this point?
I'm not reverting on this point. The point was,
I think you showed that 70% of Venezuela's economy was privatized. That almost all of them.
There's people that are starving in Venezuela right now. They're not starving because there's an embargo by the U.S.
Yes, they are.
They're not starving because they can't. They're not growing their crops. There's farmers that have crops that they're trying to take care of.
Dad.
Yeah, I do. And I also know that Venezuela was healthy.
Is depriving how is depriving food from people not going to create starvation?
The embargo the United States has is on the international waters. It's not in the country itself. If there's if there's food that's grown in their country,
so people should
let me
only
finish.
to-
You asked me why I yell. It's because you keep interrupting. There's food that's grown in their country. It is available right now. It can go to the cities. Why doesn't it go to the cities?
because they're having to transition their entire economy because they
No.
were they have been dependent on global trade for their entire
because
there wasn't starvation before the embargo, and now there is, and suddenly you're like, well, I guess it's just their fault. What do you? So you think that people just have to transition their economy on a whim, huh? We live in a global economy. You have to like.
If you talk to anyone that understood international affairs, when you talk to a college professor about Venezuela or an expert in Venezuela, they would say a lot of their problems, if not most of the problems, are because of their choices that they made. Not because
Yeah,
of what
I never said Venezuela.
You're trying to blame
Venezuela
on the United States.
No. I never said that. Venezuela has problems. Venezuela. I never said Venezuela was like completely.
One of their biggest problems is that the government controls the mechanisms of transport and also the mechanisms of food production as far as taking it from the farmer to get it to the city. Those things, because the government has done those things, they have failed, and the people are starving.
Okay, but first off, they didn't have to.
Russia too, by the way.
No,
Yes.
it didn't.
Yes. Do you know what happened in Russia?
You know what, Dad? I don't really want to talk about this because I'm not. In order for my.
You have less historical knowledge than I do about lots of things.
No, because you oversimplified literally everything. You know, we talked about we talked about the Kronstadt Rebellion, and you're like, well, the Soviet Union just like invaded and just killed a bunch of people for no reason, right?
And what
I looked up the Wikipedia article and just.
And which one? What is
They invaded Ukraine and they just killed everybody according to you, right? I looked up the literal Wikipedia article.
The point was that they starved the people in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the New York Times lied about what was happening to because they had socialists back in the United States, and they were lying and feeding the socialists, saying there's nothing wrong here.
Yeah.
There's no problem.
You know what's funny?
Seen any starvation because they sat in their hotels.
So funny.
They sat in their hotels and they didn't ever go out and see actually what was going on.
You know what's so funny, Dad?
And that's why the Ukraine.
The Wikipedia article on the Kronstadt Rebellion disproves you. So do you want to
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that fight.
You want to say that Wikipedia is biased?
No, I'll take the fight that there were people starving in the Ukraine.
Yeah, there was.
And that was caused by the Russian invasion, that they held grain in secluded areas where the Ukrainians were forced to bring the grain into the area, and then they fenced them off
but
and wouldn't let
you know why?
And then,
do you know why?
And then the New York Times lied about the starvation.
You know why?
I think it was because they were trying to take the food back to Russia.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just think right? But you have no idea.
No, I don't know that point.
Do you know what happened, Dad?
I don't, because
A bunch of people tried to revolt against the government. And they said, okay, we're going to deal with the rebellion. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Governments do things to stop rebellions. Our government did that. Every government on the planet has done that. Okay? And so you're going to say... No, because the Bolsheviks were running it right then. No, it wasn't Ukraine. Well, okay.
Okay, so from the
It was
Ukrainian
here.
It's a very different point of view. So they were their own separate country.
No. Let's look at Kronstadt Rebellion.
Anyhow, my point was this: that the press lied about the situation so that they could appease their socialist friends in the United States.
The whole of Kronstadt naval base began as a protest over the plight of the country. At the end of the Civil War, Russia was ruined. Conflict had left large agriculture industrial. Bolshevik authorities led to increased tensions in the countryside. Wait a minute. I have the wrong country here. This is Russia. All right, my bad. Sorry. I thought this was in Ukraine. That's my bad. Either way, like maybe you have a point, but the problem is that I haven't researched that at all, so I don't know if it's true or not. So I'm not going to give you that point because I don't know if it's true. Okay? The thing is that you get all this information from like all these different kinds of like sources that have an intent to try and prove one narrative. It's propaganda. Like I don't like. I know. Propaganda can proliferate from any source, Dad. Propaganda can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter.
And you're pointing at what?
I'm saying that there have been points where I've talked to you about this before, and you've been wrong about various subjects, right? Like this, like Venezuela. I did a bunch of research on Venezuela, and I proved you so wrong on so many things. And I don't know everything about every single historical anecdote you're going to pull up. The problem is, the second that I do any research into it, I realize you're wrong. No, but because the problem is that you don't give your. The problem is that no, no, because I don't know every single little thing on the entire planet. Neither do you, Dad. Don't pretend that that's a point there, okay? No, because you. The problem is you don't get your information from the literal exact experts on the subject. You get your information through people who tell you what experts have said, and then you're wrong. You read books from people who do that exact thing. Like it's a secondary source. They can pick and choose whatever they want. Because you didn't talk to them about it. We've gone over this before. What did they say about Venezuela? What did they say? They said things were bad, right? Congratulations.
They had a way worse life, and they're so happy they were able to get out. They feel so badly for all the relatives that are there that are staring at them, and they're trying to get next to them. They have no money.
Okay.
And not only that, they have no goods.
And guess what? Guess what, Dad? Guess what?
Yeah,
70% of their economy was privatized. We have a larger government than they do. The government isn't totalitarian, Yeah. Wow, congratulations.
the some cases.
Variety of issues in which, although partially Venezuela's fault, were exacerbated by U.S. sanctions and embargoes and a bunch of other things, like in fact, in staged coups, which we also talked about. Yes, it does, because if there's a sanction or an embargo, it's harder to find food. If there was worldwide sanctions in the U.S., we'd have the same problem. Yes, we would. How much of our grain or how much of our food is imported? We have hardly any, we've outsourced all of our food distribution to the third world. So if there's an embargo in any country, it's really hard.
So Russian people, they were told that they were forced to cook and forced to work in farm. Okay? They were also told that they would be given a small plot of land and they could farm whatever they wanted on that land. The only way the Russians survived is they would farm the heck out of that because their work did not provide them the basic necessities. So the way they survived was by individually going out, taking their land, and providing for them. That is the way the Russians survived in many parts of the country throughout almost all the communist countries. And so,
where's the problem? You producing your own things and then eating your own things?
What
is that
they
what
had
happened?
to do? They could not rely on the government to buy things because the government was very inconsistent and there was no market forces.
I don't know anything about that. I know everything about this and all the time. So I'm not gonna maybe you're right. I have no idea.
Is that the people could easily survive if they could own their own piece of land that the government would give them.
Sure, but that didn't even happen in the U.S. for the COVID panic. If everybody was having. Yeah.
Because
you can't produce a garden and be able to eat next week. You can't make a garden and then reap the harvest the next week. The problem is that you can't just turn economies around in a whim. Our economy is almost entirely supported by outsourced. If we had an embargo on us right now, we would die. We would start to die, and everybody would be like, "Oh, look at the U.S. starting to die. Looks like they were socialist, to capitalism, whatever." But we don't. Dad, I'm gonna look up the statistic right now on how much of U.S. food is imported. It doesn't matter what our personal life is if the society is collapsing. Why do you care? Why do you care if your life is good, if all of your friends are dying? Great. And then they're just going to eat in a week?
That people need to start taking action.
I think, sure. What does that have to do with anything? We're not even talking about that. I'm not talking about. What?
Saying that Venezuela has, even though they have resources, their people are. That's not due to.
I've said this like 50 times. When are you going to get it in your head? Embargoes are hard to deal with. That's not like a conspiracy.
What I'm saying is that people would not be not screwed up.
Yes, they are. Yeah, yes. If you don't have any trade, it's hard. Yeah, but you can't reap a harvest in a month. If there was a crisis right now, why do you think every 7 years financial downturn? You think that they were just going to be like, oh, well, in 7 years we're going to have economic problems, so we're just going to garden now? You think that's what everybody should think? That's not what everybody in the U.S. is doing. Right. And when you can create a rice that will grow and be able to be harvested in 3 days, sure, you're gonna be right. Why do you always have to think like sure the problem? Yeah, but
You have to build a house.
but most people don't just like.
In order
I just don't understand. How is it a solution to an economic crisis?
because
And what's it?
that's what is based faith. You have
What?
to
What?
in order to reap.
It's not an economic system. If you grow your own food and then you eat, that's not a system of economics. An incentive to live. Economics isn't about incentives. I mean, yeah, but it's not a. Me eating the tomatoes in my backyard is an economic system, Dad. No, it's not.
You want to get back?
Yeah, but that's not a system. That's not a system. It's a system means that it's widespread and but not every. But it's not in any system like that's been around for the past like 100, 200, 300 years. So like.
We invest. We put time. We put labor. We take care of it. Once we taken care of it to get
You're just like branching out on a random path. We're not even talking about any of. No, we're. Yes, but like I just don't understand how that relates to any of what we're talking about. We were talking about, does the embargo hurt the Venezuelan citizens? And you're like, well, why don't they just grow farm? I just.
Massive 7 years after is not because of the embargo. It's because the people in that country for some reason
What? No. The embargo was not his. I mean, maybe I don't know. Hold up.
they're starving. They're starving because they don't have food. That's why they're starving. They
Yeah, I know.
It's not a that's still paid into that. God didn't like stop all produce Venezuela. So they were growing their own food, they could take care of themselves.
Sure, but like I just don't know how to deal with that because I don't really have any information on like where that relates to anything.
Because of the government saving your land, taking things away, or making it impossible.
Can you say that's happened in Venezuela? So that's what happens.
Into the city because you control the transportation and you control the glass field. So glass fleet requires to bring the goods in. Then you have the transportation.
We are still, feeling the effects of the 2008 financial.
Yes.
Like things like life is hard to deal with. It can have lasting effects for a myriad of reasons that are probably more complex than whatever's in my mind now.
We're supposed to do is those things down that made the bad loan. The government got in the way, making the correction. They socialized the risk.
No, Dad. Privatized banks isn't socialist.
Exactly. What? Do you know what happened?
Investing, giving. No. Bailouts to privatized banks is not socialist. Just because the government does anything that's socialist. Is that what that is? So the government, no, the government giving a bailout, to a private bank, that's socialist. Is that what that is?
Receive money. Okay?
Privatized banks receive money from the government, and suddenly that means it's social.
Instead of allowing them to,
They don't even believe in private banks.
what happens is
That's just corruption, Dad. That's not socialist.
in capitalism, people fail because they make bad decisions. They were not allowed to fail. The government supported it and allowed them to keep them. They allowed some banks to fail that they didn't like because they didn't have protections, and they allowed some banks to live on.
Well, I don't have an extensive understanding of every single. I'll tell you what, though.
Taxpayers to pay for those private banks for making those bad decisions. That's what happened. And so, yes, we're still doing those effects because the government interfered with the natural market mechanism. The natural market mechanism.
No,
they just bank. And you know what? Someone else that has saved, made good decisions, can now come buy other assets and regenerate the economy. And that never happened.
No,
we all social.
But if you lose all your money, if you all your money financial crisis, and then suddenly take Chris, okay? Chris, he had medical bills to pay for, he had a life to live, and he lost his job in the 2000 crisis because he was right, and now he lost all of his savings, he lost all of his money.
Dude, he took on yeah, but yeah, it's risks. So when there is a correction, it's and 70%. That risk catches you with hands down.
I fundamentally don't understand why we have to live in a system which you're always constantly fearing for the future. Like, if anything, that's no. Because the problem is that if every 7 years it fails, the system is wrong, right?
You can't take this.
No, but you can minimize. If every 7 years there's an economic downturn, and we're like in the COVID-19 crisis, if anything, literally anything, just pokes that tiny little balloon of capitalism, and it just demolishes itself, and we have to spend months and months and months trying to figure out what to do, and just giving money to corporations, and just doing all these different kinds of things. If everything is just reliant on everything in the status quo remaining the same, we didn't become so, because you don't even understand what the word means, Dad. When's the last time you read anything by Engels or Marx? So then you have no idea. Great. So you have a perfect understanding of socialist theory. Congratulations. So the government does, if the government does anything at all, is that what that is? Is that what that means? The government gives money to somebody. It's because I don't think that to rein back in what we were talking about a long time ago. I think the fundamental relationship between capital owners and people that work for that capital is bad, and we have to change it.
So if those people believe that they're working in an agency and
we already discussed this. It doesn't matter what they feel like, okay? I like my job right now. I work for Clint. I like him. We already discussed this. It doesn't matter. Because I've already debunked this like 15 times. Yes.
The fundamental
Who mopped the floors at the building that I just worked at like an hour ago?
is people make agreements.
Can you make a real point once in this entire argument? Can you just say, okay, listen, an hour ago, or however long ago, okay, I was mopping floors. Okay, did my boss mop the floors? No. The answer is no. He didn't mop the floors. I mopped the floors. He got paid for me mopping the floors. That's a problem. That is. Oh my goodness, Dad. We're not talking about any of that. I've never even brought that up. I never discussed that at all. You're right. So I can't get mad that he. You're right. Because the creation of the opportunity makes the work happen. You're right. He put his name on an LLC and suddenly the work got done just magically. You're right. The world is just magic. It doesn't matter what if I'm. So I have to experience every single facet of life to have any understanding of any. I never said that there wasn't work in the owner. The problem is that he got paid for me mopping the floor. That's a problem. How do you not? You are the one who thinks that taxes are.
And he would give you nothing else.
Yeah, but I don't. But in a theoretical world, that shouldn't be the agreement. Because I have a problem. I have the problem with him getting paid for my labor.
He didn't get paid for your labor alone. He got paid for all the other stuff that he did that you didn't recognize.
Finding an opportunity isn't a job.
If there's no,
it's not a.
You don't have it. So you either take your own opportunity, or you have to take the opportunity that somebody else provides. If you take the opportunity that somebody else provides, you have to recognize that there's a tax that is associated with that. And that tax you agree to because you didn't make the opportunity. That's what being an employee is. So you may think that that's wrong, but
Just
there's no incentive.
Having your name as a CEO or the owner of a business doesn't get the work done, and he's getting paid for the work that I'm doing.
It is work. He's not getting paid.
Yes, okay, he's doing a different kind of work. The service that he provides, the service that my boss right now provides, is a cleaning service. Correct? Okay. His employees go to the places in which he set up the contract, right? He set up the business for those contracts. He set up those contracts. He sends his employees out to do the cleaning. Yet, the problem is you have no room for nuance, do you?
Yes,
Either everybody's evil or everybody is good. That's not it's not a mentality that's fighting me back to just say, oh, well, that's not something I enjoy. That doesn't mean anything, Dad. It's ridiculous to assume that I can't exist in a life while also like thinking things are bad. I can participate in the system while also saying that's.
You think you would do?
It doesn't matter what I would do, because at the end of the day, why? No, the problem is that he's owning my label. He owns it.
You see, and you think
because I'm trying to prove a point, and you can't even agree with me on one point. I'm trying to prove one specific point that you cannot understand. It's going way over your head. Okay? He did not mop the floors, but he got paid for money. That's a problem. That's my whole point. Everything that I've been talking about hours has been that, and you can't even agree on it. It doesn't matter. Why does that mean anything? It wouldn't even have been him. It would have been another probably. Like, it doesn't matter. Sure, but why is he getting paid for my labor? But he didn't mop the floors. So why is he getting paid for it? I recognize he does the work. It's not the problem that he's doing the work or whatever. The problem is that I made and he's paid for me mopping the. That's the problem.
The extra that he makes, you're
You just said it. He made it off of me. You just said he made it off of me.
Or you don't see. Well,
It doesn't. I'm not criticizing that it doesn't work. I'm not criticizing that he has to do a bunch of paperwork and set up the contracts, the bids, and he does that kind of work. The problem is that no, I'm not. The problem is that he's getting paid for me mopping the floors, and I don't have any say in the business. He owns everything in that business, and he gets paid. No, I can't do anything. I can say, hey, this should happen, but he doesn't have to. It doesn't matter because that same relationship is present in another circumstance. Why? What do you mean it doesn't matter? We've been talking about this for. Oh my goodness. Okay, I can't. I'm not even gonna. Whatever. Ah.
Yosef.
Oh, goodness. I was in chat that whole time, weren't I?
Hey, are you done? Yosef.